Commitment is remaining true to what you said you would do long after the mood that you set it in has left. In this video, I'm going to show you what those who actually achieve their classroom goals know that those who don't achieve their classroom goals don't. And like I said, 92% of people who set New Year's resolutions don't achieve them. The statistics are very similar for those in the classroom. And when we think about what happens when we don't actually achieve these goals, what's going to happen? Right? One of the things that happens when we don't achieve our classroom goals is that students are going to remain stagnant. Think about it. If when goals are not achieved, student growth is directly affected, right? Because if we set a goal where we want to grow each great student up one grade level, right? We want to make sure that we have 80% of students pass the grade assessment. We want to make sure that students are growing, 1,000 lexile points, whatever it is. Like whenever we say we are setting this goal, if we don't actually achieve the goal that we set with our students and the goals that we set in our classroom, students are going to remain stagnant. Their growth is directly affected, right? Absolutely. And then what to make matters even worse, when we don't set the goals that we achieve, what happens to the teachers that we get frustrated? We start to feel as if we're inadequate. We start to feel as if we're not good enough. We start to think that this is not something that we can do. We start to think that I don't even know if I'm meant to be here. Because the frustration starts to mount when we set a goal and we don't actually achieve it. And then what really happens, what really sets in when we don't achieve the goals that we set, all right, Stephanie's like, yeah, absolutely, that happens, is that we start to deal with what's called learned helplessness. Now, raise your hands if you know what learned helplessness is. You don't have to raise your hands. I can't see them. But learned helplessness, right, is when you experience failure so much that you no longer believe that the potential for success exists. Never underestimate your teaching. There's 1% that sets you apart from everybody else. And that 1% is how you're going to make your impact.
He was exciting, funny. He is just real.
This was like monumental.
If you view your 1% as if it's a deficiency, you'll operate as if it is. But if you view your 1% as if it's your amazing, you'll operate with confidence. And I need some more people as we step into this next school year to walk confidently knowing that your differences are not your deficiencies. Your differences are not your drawbacks. Your differences are not your downfalls. But when you let your differences live, that's when you can make a difference in students' lives. I can't wait to see these teachers enact their 1% amazing and make the difference that only they can. If you would like for your school district to be empowered as well, you can click the link down below and our team will reach out to you. When you experience failure so much that you no longer believe the potential for success exists, that's what learned helplessness is. It's like we're learning to be helpless. We try this thing and we're not good at it. We see it a lot of times in students when students are, say they're trying math, right? And they tried fractions and it didn't work. And they're like, so next year in fourth grade, they're like, I don't want to try fractions. I'm not good at math. I'm bad at math. That's learned helplessness because they tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed. And now they're sitting in your class and they're like, I'm not even going to try anymore. That's when you look at a student that's disengaged. The same thing happens to us as adults. We try and fail. I set this New Year's resolution to lose 15 pounds. Didn't work. I set this New Year's resolution to make sure that I have a better spiritual life. Didn't work. Right. And now we start to say, you know what? I'm not even going to set a resolution. Nah, I'm just going to set goals this year. I'm not even going to claim. I'm just going to live my life. Right. Or we look at the classroom and say, I'm going to grow at the beginning of September or August. We say, I'm going to make sure every student grows one letter grade. Or I'm going to make sure every student grows 1 year on iReady or reaches their stretch growth. And then when that's not happening, we're like, why do I even try? That's what learned helplessness is, right? And then we start to ask ourselves questions. But the main question that we start to ask ourselves, if you could be honest, the main question that we really ask and we're feeling in our heart of hearts is, are we even making a positive impact on students? When we set a goal and we don't achieve it, and set a goal and don't achieve it, and set a goal and don't achieve it, the common question that then appears in the teacher's heart is, am I even making a positive impact on students? Is that anybody kind of wondering that? And we can be honest and say, I had high hopes for the 2024-2025 school year.
I had amazing goals. And like I thought my vision was strong. And now midway through the year, I'm kind of like, I don't think we're going to make it. Am I even making a positive impact on students? Right? And Karen, I appreciate the vulnerability. Right? So it's my 10th year in education. I tried so much, but I felt like I failed because of not having that support or acknowledging what I'm doing. Are we even making an impact on students? But I promised you that I would share with you something that the 8% know that the 92% don't. The 8% of people that actually achieve their goals versus the 92% of people that don't, there's one little difference. And I'd like to share that with you. There's one difference between the 8% and the 92%. And that is that the 8% understand that they're going to rely on the system and not the setting. What do you mean? They're going to rely on the system, not the setting. A lot of people get into the place where they rely on making sure we set goals the right way. Are they SMART goals? Are they, the goals aligned to the school district? Are there goals that are approved? Maybe we got our goals on Chat GPT, right? But we focus on the setting of the goal. It's January 1st. I got to set my goal. It's August 5th. We got to start the school year. I got to set my goal. We focus a lot on the setting of the goal. But remember, I'm going to ask you this question. Is it possible for a unsuccessful person to set a goal? Yeah. Successful people set goals, and both successful people set goals and unsuccessful people set goals, which means the setting of the goal is not the indicator of whether or not you will be successful. But what the 8% know that the 92% don't is that it's less about the setting and more about the system. What is the system that you're going to implement to make sure that that goal is actually achieved? And that is what I can help you understand. Lots of people can just set goals. 100% of people that set goals are good at setting goals. But the 8% that actually achieve their goals and the teachers that actually achieve the goals in the classroom don't focus solely on the setting. They focus on the system. And I think the best example of that is actually something I read really recently. Let me know if you've seen this news story. Man, her name was Hilde, and I want to make sure I'm saying it right. I think her name was Hilde. She's in Belgium. And she set a goal last year, a New Year's resolution, January 2024. She said, I am going to run a marathon every day. Listen, a marathon, y'all. She's 55 years old. I am 31. When I run, I do 2 miles. Some of you, I know that you can do more than me. Kudos to you. Shout out to you. Some of you, I know you struggle to get off the couch and put 2 feet on, 2 shoes on. I know, I get it, right? But what I'm saying is, at 55 years old, a mother of 4, a wife, at 55 years old, she said, I'm going to run a 26.2 mile marathon every single day of 2024. And guess what? She actually did it. Every single day of 2024, she actually ran a marathon. And when I'm serious. Listen, Christine, honestly, you can look it up. Hilde is her name, Hilde. I don't even know how to say the last name, and I don't want to mess it up, but it's Dosoggne, right? But she said, I'm going to run a marathon every single day. And she actually did. And she accomplished that goal. And in this news article, they asked her, what was the hardest part about running a marathon every single day? And she said, the hardest part was not the physical toll on my body. The hardest part was not actually doing the work. The hardest part was making the mental decision to do it every day. Like looking outside and seeing the rain and saying, I got to do this again. Looking outside and saying, oh, it's snowing today. I got to do this again. Looking outside and feeling it's hot today. Looking at, I just did it yesterday. The hardest part, she said, was the mental part. Once she started running, the running was easy. What am I trying to say? The action was not the hardest part. The mental decision was. And the reason why a lot of us don't actually achieve the goals is not because the actions are too hard for us. It's because the mental decision was not made. And what I need you to understand is my goal is to help you make sure that you can actually achieve these classroom goals that you set. But a lot of us are relying on feelings instead of facts. A lot of us will set the goal, But then when it comes to chasing the goal, when it comes to actually implementing the system, we rely on our feelings instead of facts. What kind of feelings? I'll let you know. Let me know if anybody's been in this situation before, because I know I was. If anybody has felt like, well, students are going to respond because they're supposed to. Like, as the teacher, I set the goal. As a teacher, my job is to want what's best for students, to motivate them, to encourage them. They should respond because they're supposed to. Students should respond because they're supposed to, right? No, that's not necessarily the case. Students are not just going to do what you ask them to do because they're supposed to, because they're the student and you're the teacher. And if I can be honest, that's not just a student thing. I think I think flight attendants everywhere would agree with me in saying that people really just care about themselves. I was on a flight a couple of weeks ago in Chicago, and I remember sitting on the flight and just looking around when right before we started to take off, and the flight attendants were there, and they were putting they were doing the demonstration of, here's how you put the mask on, here's how you put the life vest on. And they were doing all this, you know what I'm saying? And I was just looking around the plane, and everybody was like looking down on their phones. They had their headphone on. They're like, let me download this movie before we take off, right? Because listen, the flight attendants are giving you the instructions that you need to save your life in case of emergency. And even in that moment, 98% of the plane is just like, I could care less. So you think that a student, just because you set a goal, is going to care about the goal that you set? No. That's why they look around like, I can care less. So we rely on feelings. We feel like that because we're the teacher and they're the student, they should just respond. And when we don't see the growth that we're supposed to see, that's when we start saying things like, if I had a different class, oh man, if I had Miss Henderson's class, because those are some good kids. If I had those kids, then I'd be reaching the classroom goals. We start to feel like it's the students. Come on, can we? Let's be honest. And if we could be honest as well, sometimes we feel a sense of discomfort, and our discomfort makes us feel discouraged. Like we're feeling like we're stretching, we're feeling like we're growing, we're feeling like we're moving towards the goal, but it feels a little uncomfortable. And it's our discomfort that makes us feel discouraged, and we no longer keep chasing that goal. Before we get to the next point, I just have to let you know that my book, 99% Human, 1% Amazing, right now is free. All you have to do is cover the cost of shipping, and I'll get it directly to you. So check the link in the description below. If you're receiving value from this video, you'll probably love the book. We rely on feelings instead of facts. And the reason why I can bring this up is not just because I've done research, but because I've also experienced this for myself. I remember being that terrible teacher and coming in excited. Listen, if you don't know anything about my story, when I came into education, I was super excited. I wanted to make the biggest impact on students ever. And when I got into the classroom, we had big goals, high expectations, and I was super excited. And then as we got into the year, a couple of weeks in, I started seeing we're not making progress. We started getting data back, and it was red and yellow. You know what I'm talking about. And I started saying those same things. I was like, it's the students I have. If I had the honors class, then we could reach our goals. Like, if I was in that other school on the other side of town, then we reach our goals. These students, it's just not it for them. And then as we were starting to grow, like my discomfort was making me feel discouraged. Like, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. But what I learned was that when you implement a system, a proven system that's actually going to help you achieve your goals, and we start focusing on actions instead of outcomes. I'm going to teach you about that in a second. When I started focusing on the system, that's what allowed me to transition from that terrible teacher to a 2-time teacher of the year. That's what allowed me to earn my national board certification in 612 math. That's what allowed me as an administrator to improve the school letter grade in my 2 years there. And that's what allows me to travel the world and train other teachers to do the same. You're not learning from somebody who never made mistakes. You're not learning from somebody who's always been this smiley, happy, loving my career person. I struggled so much, but I had to learn how to overcome that struggle in order to make the impact that I felt like I was called to make. And one of the things that I had to learn how to do as it relates to setting goals was to focus on the actions instead of the outcomes. And that's where I want to land today. If we're taking notes, now is the time, because here's where we go. We are going to focus on actions instead of outcomes. And I just realized that I have a faulty light switch above my head, and I'm gonna have to change that at some point, but not right now. So if it flickers a little bit, just ignore it. It's okay. It's not paranormal activity. It's just Daryl needs to change the light bulb. But we're gonna focus on actions instead of outcomes. Amber, shout out to you. Super glad that you got the national board certification as well. It was a long, hard, strenuous process, right? Right. And Christine, eventually it happens, right? Eventually it happens. And here's some of the things that we learned. Eventually we turn this thing around. Focus on the actions instead of outcomes. And Jennifer's asking, listen, sometimes is it the environment that's the setting? That's always been difficult for me. And we're going to talk about how to overcome some of those environments, how to overcome some negative environments, how to be a thermometer instead of a thermostat. Because in a negative environment, a thermostat is just going to check the temperature. No, a thermometer is just going to check the temperature. A thermostat is going to set the temperature. How do you set the temperature in your toxic environment? We can talk about that. All right, let's rock and roll. Lori, don't worry, I'm gonna change the light bulb. I got you. So here we go. Focusing on actions instead of outcomes. What does that mean? If you want to actually achieve your goals this year, there's just 3 things you have to do to actually achieve your goals this year. I promise we can make this thing happen. The first thing that you want to do is you want to backwards plan from the expected outcome. Backwards plan from the expected outcome. If you don't know what backwards plan is, just put some question marks in the chat so I need to know how deep I need to go. But if I don't see any question marks, I'm going to keep going. So backwards plan, I'll kind of give you an example. You want to think about the ultimate goal of where you want to end up, the vision, like what you want to see happen. And then you plan backwards from that to see what it's going to take in order for you to get there. So the example that I like to give is like running the long jump in track. So I used to be a track coach. This is my first year not being a track coach in the last about 7 years. But one of the field events is the long jump. And what students have to do during the long jump is they have to run and they have to leap from a specific line as far as they can into a sand pit. All right. I got you, Natasha. I'm going to explain it. They have to jump as far as they can into a sand pit. Right. So what we train students to do, we don't want them to step over the line. We don't want them to miss the line, because if you save, maybe 7 inches, that's 7 inches off of your jump. That could have been in the sand, right? So we want them to hit the board exactly where they're supposed to take off from. So what we do is we have students or athletes stand on the board, the takeoff board. They stand on the board, turn around, and sprint back to the starting point. And as they sprint back, they're counting their steps. And they sprint back, they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then maybe get to 27 steps. And then when they land on that 27th step, they'll put a piece of tape on the ground. So now what does that mean? That means now when I stand on this piece of tape, it is exactly 27 steps. You get it. Come on. 27 paces from this piece of tape to the border I'm supposed to take off from. So now during the competition, they know I can run hard for 27 steps. And as soon as I hit that 27th step, I'm going to leap and I should be taking off right off of the board. That's what backwards planning is. You're starting from where you want to take off, turning around, sprinting back to the starting point, and then saying, what do I need to do to get from here to there? So backwards plan from the expected outcome. If you're looking at the goals that you have in your class and you're saying, I want to make sure that every single student reaches their stretch growth in iReady, what are the things that need to happen consistently in order for the students to reach their stretch growth? All right, so that means that we need to spend time on platform at least 20 minutes a week. Maybe somebody's saying it's at least 40 minutes a week, right? So we're backwards planning, because if I don't have that consistent plan, then what's going to happen is I'm going to take the beginning of the year diagnostic and the middle of the year diagnostic and just hope for the best. But what we can do instead is say, by the end of the year, I want every single student to reach their stretch growth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we do those check-ins, or make sure that I make sure that students are using the platform or reading nightly, whatever it is. But you're identifying the things that need to happen along the way in order to make that goal eventually achieved. That's it. So we're going to backwards plan from the expected outcome. So for every goal that you have, start to think about, this is where I want to be. Here's where I am. Let me start here. What are the things I need to do to get from where I am to where I want to be? All right. You got it. The next thing that we're gonna do,
What if I told you that the principles that are being taught in this video could be taught to your school community live and in person? Well, the answer is yes. I'm Darrell Williams Jr., and you know that I'm on a mission to help a million students be able to live the life that they choose, not the life they're forced to settle for. And I do that by empowering new teachers to have a big impact on student achievement data without burning out, without feeling unsupported, and without changing who they are. So if there's a message that I can empower your students, your staff, your school community with, I would love to pop up in person and make that happen and provide massive value for your school community. Check the link in the description below to fill out a booking form, and somebody from the team will get back to you about how we can work together.
is after we backwards plan. I hope that's helpful for you. If it's not, you need to slow down, let me know. I see Jennifer is saying, listen, backwards design for content should work for classroom management, right? It should, right? It should, that backwards design. Now, as you're backwards planning, here's the game changer that a lot of people don't recognize. What you can do is now, as you look at the actions that you need to take, you list out the daily, the weekly, and the monthly actions. And this is something that I actually honestly do, and I'm going to show you how to do it as well. Because what happens is a lot of people focus on outcomes instead of actions. If we can be honest, you can't control the outcome. Let me say it one more time because I need to release somebody. You cannot control the outcome. All you can control is the action that you do. For example, somebody that's saying, I want to make sure that, again, let's just stick with every student reaching their stretch growth and iReady, or let's go with something universal. Every student passing the end of year assessment, or every student getting a 4 or 5 on their IB test, right? You can't actually control the answers that students are going to put on the day of the assessment. True or false? You can't actually control that outcome because you can't control what students are going to do. You can't control what questions are going to be on the end of year standardized assessment. Like you don't get to control any of those things, so you don't get to control the outcome. What you can do is you can control your actions. You can say that, listen, every single day, we are going to do independent reading for 10 minutes. I used to be a math teacher, but I'm focused on reading here tonight. You can say every single week, we are going to answer a DOK level 3 question. Every single month, you see what I'm saying? Because what we're going to do now is after we backwards plan, we're going to decide what are the things that I know if they do these things consistently, if we as a class do these things consistently, it is going to lead to that expected outcome. List out the daily, the weekly, and the monthly actions that you have to do. And as you list out those actions, the last step is to remain committed to the process. And if I can be honest, this is the hardest part. Hildy said this is the hardest part. It was the mental decision to get up and run every day. So you can have your action plan, you can have your guide, you can have the plan that you want to implement, the daily, the weekly, and the monthly tasks and actions that you have to do. But if you don't have the mindset that says I'm going to remain committed to the process, that's where it gets to be tricky. What even is commitment? One of my favorite speakers gave me the definition of the word commitment. I'm never going to forget it. He said, commitment is remaining true to what you said you would do long after the mood that you set it in has left. That was Inky Johnson. Listen, commitment, staying true to what you said you were going to do long after the mood that you set it in has left. That is what commitment is. When you're setting these goals, when you're listing out these daily, weekly, and monthly actions, you're in a mood that says, we can do this, we got this. You're excited, you're motivated, you're inspired. But after that mood leaves, can you remain committed to the process? Over 50% of marriages end in divorce. But very few marriages end in divorce on the honeymoon. Why? Because the mood is right. Like the mood is right. I can remain committed when the mood is right. But what happens is eventually that mood fades. Eventually things get hard. Eventually you start trying and testing my patience. Eventually you start leaving the cap off the toothpaste, right? Eventually things happen. The mood changes and I'm no longer committed to the process. But those who actually achieve goals, what the 8% know that the 92% don't. is that if you focus on your actions instead of the outcomes, you can't be stopped. Got it? Awesome, Sharice. Awesome. So now you know me. I'm always thinking in the mind of the listener, the teacher, the whoever's listening on the calls, and I know somebody is sitting here thinking that there's something standing in your way. So my question to you is, what's stopping you? And somebody's thinking to themselves, well, the thing that's stopping me is I don't know how to track my progress to remain committed. Like how do I know if I'm doing the right track, if I'm on the right track? How do I know if I'm doing things the right way? Right? Some of us are wondering that. I can set a goal, awesome, and I feel like I can, achieve it, but how am I going to track my progress along the way? One of the things that I highly recommend is a habit tracker. And I might make this a little bit bigger if I don't confuse myself. And there we go. I got it. Sorry, it's a new platform. All right, so here's a habit tracker. And as you notice on the left side, you can list out your daily habits. And in that, circle looking thing, you check off every day, at the end of every day, you check off if you did it or not. So again, this is something that I use. So something for me might be start off the day with a devotional. Well, the first thing for me is get up when the alarm goes off, because that's something I used to struggle with, snoozing the alarm. So 1 was get up when the alarm goes off. 2 was start off the day with a devotional. Right? 3, I'm going down the list. There's things that I need to do. So you list those things out. And at the end of the day, I reflect and ask myself if I did those things. And then if I did, I'll put a check mark on it. And if I didn't, I'll leave it blank. And the goal is that by the end of the month, you can review those check marks and say, wow, 18 out of 31 days, I had devotion. All right, next month, I'm gonna kick that up. If you look over on the right side, you have weekly habits. You list out all the things that you need to make happen every week. For me, exercising once a week. All right, but let's talk about it in terms of classroom. So for you, that's when in the classroom, you might say that every week, well, every day, maybe you're doing a do now and exit ticket. All right, maybe every week you're doing 40 minutes on iReady or something of that nature. And then there at the bottom, you have the monthly habits. These are things that we need to make sure happen at least once a month. And you're committing to this process and you're saying maybe, every month we're going to complete a differentiated activity, something of that nature. But is that making sense? You see how that's working, right? How that habit tracker is useful. And as a matter of fact, I love giving resources. I'm actually going to give this habit tracker to you. I'm going to give you this habit tracker at the end. I'll let you know how to get access to it. I created it because I used it. It was so helpful. So I'm going to actually give a habit tracker to you or show you how to get that habit tracker. You can download it. You can print it. And yeah, Jennifer's like a version of this would be good for kids as well. Definitely keep them organized. So again, at the end, I'll show you how to get access to it. You can download it, you can print it, one for you, one for your kids. It doesn't matter, but fantastic. All right, so now for somebody that's saying, listen, and I asked you what's stopping you, and it's saying, I don't know how to track my progress to remain committed. Did I just show you a way that you can track your progress? Because when you're tracking progress, you can remain committed, right? So now that you understand this, my charge to you is to remind you. Somebody might mentally be saying, man, listen, I I want to do this, but I don't know if I can. I always need to encourage you. I want to do this, but I don't know if I can. I want to achieve these goals. I believe that it is, but I don't know if I can. Right? It's not an app, Jody. Jody's asking if it's an app. It's a digital download. It's a PDF of 12 months. Right? So a blank one for each month of the year. Right? And then so you can print it out and mark it up, a physical copy. So somebody's asking, like, am I actually good at this? And I just need to let you know that this is not your first time. Like, you have achieved goals in the past. There's nothing new here. Like, you learned how to walk. You learned how to tie your shoes. You learned how to speak. Sometimes you learn how to speak different languages, right? You learned a lot of different things along the way. You had a goal, you set out and you achieved it. You wanted to graduate high school, you did it. You wanted to get a degree and you did. Like, there are a lot of things that you wanted to set out to do and you actually did it. And as you're looking at this and thinking, I'm feeling discouraged midway through the year. I'm not sure if we're going to achieve these goals. I don't know if I'm strong enough, if I'm smart enough, if I'm capable enough to make sure that we get all the rest of these students encouraged. I just need to let you know that proof that you have done it is proof that you can do it. Proof that you've done it before, right? Proof that you've achieved goals is just proof that you can achieve goals. And I'm super, super grateful for you. And I know that you can make this happen. If you know that you can make this happen, let me see the muscle emoji, right? And it, like, the one that looks like this, just the arm, like the muscle emoji that says, I've got this, I can do this. I don't care what color you use. You can use the white one, the yellow one, the black one, the pink one. It doesn't matter. But just listen, put that muscle emoji in the chat if you are saying, I got this, I can do this, I can implement this system, I can focus on my actions instead of outcomes. I'm going to remain committed to the process, and we can actually achieve these goals this year. I believe in you, but don't let me believe in you more than you believe in you.
Whether you are stepping into your first classroom ever or your 29th, sometimes you still feel like a brand new teacher, overwhelmed, unsure, and concerned as if you are actually making the impact that you've always dreamed of. Well, you're not alone. Teaching is really hard. And for most of us, we feel like we didn't get the adequate training that we needed. And without that guidance and support, we feel like we're failing ourselves, our students, our school community. The result? A lack of confidence that leads to burnout. Teachers are leaving the profession at high rates, but it doesn't have to be that way. And trust me, I know, because I was a terrible teacher. But I turned it around from being that terrible teacher to a 2-time teacher of the year and currently a school administrator. And I created something to help you do the same. I created Impact, which is an engaged, educated community that was built to help you become the teacher that you've always wanted to be and make the impact that you've always wanted to make. Inside of Impact, you'll find practical, actionable courses that are built to help you become a more effective educator, with new courses released every single month, with workbooks, as well as resources. You'll find a vibrant community of educators that are ready to support you, to guide you, and to celebrate you along the way. And you'll also earn gamified rewards for your participation, because we believe in having fun and enjoying education. So you receive badges and rewards and accolades for your participation and engagement in the group, and for your wins and celebrations. So whether it's learning how to better engage students, or how to manage the classroom, or differentiate for all learners, Impact is here to support you and surround you on your educational journey to become a better teacher. And the best part is, you're not doing this alone, because not only do you have the engaged community, but you have access to this former terrible teacher turned 2-time teacher of the year, with access to coaching from me to really help you step by step along your way. So if you're ready to stop feeling stuck and to start making a real difference, this is your opportunity to take control of your career and make the difference that you want to make. So join Impact today and get started for free. Together, we can make education what it's always supposed to be: rewarding, fun, and highly impactful. I'll see you on the inside.